Level 1. The candidate before the carrier, before the fighter jet, before the wings. There is Pensacola, Naval Air Station Pensacola, the birthplace of American naval aviation. You arrive as an officer candidate with no wings, no flight hours, and no guarantee you will survive the pipeline ahead. Some came from the United States Naval Academy, others through ROTC or Officer Candidate School. None of that matters now, because the ocean does not care where you came from. The Navy strips you down to the basics: aerodynamics, navigation, engines, weather, emergency procedures. Then comes the water, the helo dunker, a metal cabin dropped into a pool, then flipped upside down underwater while you are strapped inside. No visibility, no orientation, no panic allowed. You learn one lesson immediately. A Navy pilot is expected to stay calm inside chaos. Fail enough times here, and your aviation career ends before it ever begins. After survival training comes the aircraft, the T-6 Texan II. You learn formation flying, instrument approaches, low-level navigation, emergency recoveries. Every flight is graded, every mistake recorded, every student competing for the same thing: jets. Because in naval aviation, fighters are more than aircraft. They are identity. The best students move toward the strike pipeline: Super Hornets, Growlers, Lightning IIs, and eventually, the carrier. Level 2. Carrier qualification. Most pilots learn to land on a runway. Navy pilots learn to land on a moving piece of steel in the middle of the ocean. You transition into the T-45 Goshawk, a jet trainer built for one purpose: teaching students how to survive carrier aviation. Soon you are flying toward a nuclear aircraft carrier at over 130 knots. The deck is pitching, the sea is black, and the runway is barely longer than a few city blocks. You stare at the Fresnel lens, the ball. Too high, you fail. Too low, you die. The landing signal officer watches from the stern, judging every second of your approach. Then comes the impact. Not a gentle landing, a controlled collision. Your tailhook slams into steel cables stretched across the deck. In less than 2 seconds, the aircraft goes from full flight speed to a dead stop. Your body snaps forward against the harness. You smell burnt rubber and jet fuel. And suddenly, you are aboard the ship. Then they make you do it again. At night, no horizon, no city lights, only darkness and the glowing ball. This is where many pilots discover fear for the first time. Because naval aviation is built on a single terrifying concept: flying directly into the deck. No flare, no soft touchdown, just commitment. Eventually, you earn the wings of gold. You are now a United States naval aviator. But inside the fleet, you are still nobody. Level 3. The Nugget. Your first squadron does not treat you like an elite pilot. It treats you like a liability. You report to the Fleet Replacement Squadron to learn the aircraft that will define your life. The F/A-18 Super Hornet. Boeing F/A, 18E/F Super Hornet twin engines. Carrier capable, built for war, air-to-air combat, strike missions, close air support, precision bombing. The learning curve is brutal. Radar systems, weapons employment, defensive countermeasures, carrier procedures, and every instructor knows one thing: the ocean punishes overconfidence. After months of training, you finally arrive at the Fleet Squadron. Now you are called a Nugget. The new guy. The pilot everyone watches carefully because inexperienced aviators can get people killed. Your squadron is a machine. Pilots, maintainers, armorers, intelligence specialists, flight deck crews. Hundreds of people keeping a dozen aircraft combat ready. And despite being new yourself, you are already expected to lead sailors responsible for million-dollar equipment. At the same time, you are still learning how not to die in the cockpit. Level 4. Deployment. Eventually, training stops. Deployment begins. 6 to 9 months aboard an aircraft carrier. Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. The ship becomes your entire world. Tiny staterooms, endless briefings, jet noise 24 hours a day. The ready room becomes home. That is where missions are planned, where mistakes are dissected, and where every landing grade is posted publicly on the greenie board for the squadron to see. In naval aviation, embarrassment is part of the training system. Bad pilots cannot hide. You qualify as combat wingman, then section lead. Now another pilot's survival depends on your decisions. One wrong call in weather, fuel planning, or formation timing can destroy 2 aircraft instead of 1. Responsibility arrives fast in carrier aviation, because combat arrives fast too. Level 5. Tactical Leader. By now you are experienced. Thousands of flight hours. Hundreds of traps aboard the carrier. You upgrade to Division Lead. 4 aircraft under your command. Complex strike packages involving electronic warfare aircraft, airborne command centers, tankers, escorts, and surface ships. Modern naval strikes are giant moving puzzles. Everything timed to the second. A single delay can collapse the mission. Mission planning can take all night. The actual strike may last less than an hour. Then comes the debrief. Every radio call, every tactical error, every missed opportunity analyzed frame by frame. This is the culture that created Top Gun. United States Navy Strike Fighter Tactics Instructor Program established after the Vietnam War when Navy air combat performance collapsed against enemy MiGs. Top Gun rebuilt the Navy's fighter doctrine from the ground up. Only a small number of pilots ever earn the patch. Inside naval aviation, that patch carries weight even senior rank cannot replicate. Level 6. Department Head. Eventually, the Navy pulls you away from pure flying. You rotate ashore, maybe as an instructor, maybe as a test pilot, maybe earning a master's degree while the next generation replaces you at sea. But eventually, you return to the fleet as a department head. Now you are balancing 2 full-time jobs: combat aviator and organizational leader. You oversee maintenance departments worth hundreds of millions of dollars while still flying operational missions. You manage exhausted sailors, flight schedules, safety investigations, inspections, deployments. And at night, you still trap aboard the carrier. The pressure becomes relentless, because now your mistakes affect entire squadrons, not just yourself. Level 7. Commanding Officer. Then comes command. 1 squadron, hundreds of personnel, millions in equipment, and absolute responsibility. You are now the commanding officer, the person every pilot, maintainer, and sailor looks toward when things go wrong. And eventually, things always go wrong. Mechanical failures, deck accidents, combat taskings, emergency recoveries at night. The squadron studies you constantly, especially your carrier landings. Because in naval aviation, credibility is visible. The greenie board still exists, and rank does not protect you from a bad trap. During deployment, your aircraft may launch toward real targets in places like Iraq, Syria, or the Red Sea. 12 hours earlier, intelligence found the target. Now your squadron is executing the strike. And hours later, you are back aboard the carrier at midnight, trying to land on a moving deck in bad weather. Again and again and again. Level 8. The Air Wing Commander. At this level, you no longer command 1 squadron. You command the entire air wing. Dozens of aircraft, thousands of personnel, fighters, electronic warfare jets, airborne command aircraft, helicopters. The carrier air wing becomes a floating air force. You coordinate combat operations across hundreds of miles of ocean and contested airspace. By now, younger pilots see you as part of the institution itself. But somewhere in your memory, you still remember the first night trap. The fear never fully leaves. You simply learn how to function beside it. Level 9. Admiral eventually, some aviators reach flag rank. Rear Admiral, Vice Admiral, Admiral. Now the cockpit is replaced by conference rooms and strategic decisions, carrier strike groups, fleet operations, future aircraft programs. You oversee formations powerful enough to influence world events simply by arriving offshore. But the distance between command headquarters and the cockpit grows larger every year, because no meeting room can fully explain what it feels like to fly toward a dark carrier deck at night with low fuel and rough seas below. Only aviators understand that world, and they carry it forever. Level 10. After the Navy. Eventually, the deployments end. The carrier sails without you, and one day you realize you have already completed your last trap, hundreds of carrier landings behind you. Maybe more. You remember the catapult launches, the violence of acceleration, the heat of the flight deck at night, the smell of hydraulic fluid and salt air. You remember walking toward the jet before sunrise while the ocean disappeared into darkness around the ship. Civilian airlines may hire you afterward. Passengers will see only another captain in uniform. They will never know the person flying them once landed high-performance jets on a moving warship during storms in the middle of the ocean. And somewhere tonight, another student sits in a classroom at Pensacola studying aerodynamics, not yet understanding what waits for them beyond the carrier deck. But soon enough, they will.